If all men want is peace, can a man have peace and still be miserable? Or does a man have to be happy in order to have peace?
Hey, go. Asteroid of fear.
Welcome to another episode of the Myth House Podcast. Here with your favorite Irish Mexican, Richard. And we'll start off with a little reflection. April 11th. Rain is a gift, which is perfect because it's raining outside. As a matter of fact, my last recording got cut off because of the rain. The electricity went out. So, anywho, we talk about rain as a dreary thing, gray skies and full clouds blocking out the sun. But water gives us life, sends vital moisture into the soil and into the rivers, softening the ground and growing the plants. It grows our food, makes up a majority of our physical form, cleans off the sweat from our bodies. We are so dependent on water, and here it is, falling out of the sky toward our waiting world. The next time you see a raindrop, you might want to say thank you. Thank you, rain, for jacking up my podcast. uh, all right, let's get into this. So, kind of my question was, if men seek peace, can you have peace while being miserable? Or do you need to be happy in order to have peace? Kind of want to explore this topic. Have a couple of ideas. Um, but this is kind of a discussion. So, one of those little things to make you think. Um, so you can hopefully be a better person. So we can be better people. So we can have a better world. Understand, understand, understand ourselves better. So I am appropriately wearing my 2016 Bataan Death March shirt. I also have one from 2005. I've talked about it before on the podcast, but anyone who knows the Bataan Death March it's a marathon through White Sands Missile Range with elevation changes, sand traps, all kinds of stuff. Now there are some uh PT studs out there who will run it in 3.5 hours with a 35-pound ruck. That is not me. My mission was to complete it. So, and I did twice. And, you know, I'm talking about tougher than woodpecker lips twice. Like drinking a half a bottle of JMO the night before, waking up the next day, and doing 26.2 miles through White Sands Missile Range. So, yeah, I can do it. But we're going to tie that back in. So, there's a lot of times that we as men, we just want peace. We don't want to hear arguing, we don't want to hear fighting, we don't want to hear nagging. We just want everything to kind of be okay, a little peace and quiet. Sometimes if you're married, have children, it can be difficult to come by that kind of peace because, you're divided among many things. Your work, your circle, your social circle, for me, my circle is the Podcast Connection Network. And so, and then other people that I meet on TikTok that I want to interview. Um, but yeah, you're divided. And so kind of peace can be hard to come by sometimes. But, I'm looking more at exploring peace and misery and happiness. And can you have it, you know, independent of the other two? Or, can you never have peace if you're miserable? They're kind of good questions. Um, for me personally, I think in some situations you can be miserable and have peace. I don't think happiness is a requirement. Um, for instance, the Bataan Death March. It's pretty fucking miserable. There's a lot of discomfort involved, but you gain a sense of peace somewhere in the pain, somewhere in the acceptance. And I think those kind of things are are kind of the key, the acceptance part of it. Some things just suck. Ask anyone in the military. You've had to do some shitty things, some sucky things, but you can still find peace in it, I think. I mean, I have. Is it I don't know that it's a physical peace. Maybe it's a mental peace, and I was talking to my wife about it before recording, and, she thinks, I think to a degree, peace is something you give yourself. And I kind of agree with that, because when you're totally miserable, the elements suck, you're sore, you hurt, you have blisters, cramping. Um, there's a certain peace that comes with that misery, and it's through acceptance. And I think the other part of that is, maybe there's a motivation behind it. You want to finish. For me in 2016, I was a new leader, and my drive um, wasn't just personal, but from a leadership standpoint, I had told my team this was what I was going to do and I was going to complete it. And, the person I am, a man of my word, I'm going to make sure it gets done. So that's a driving factor, a motivational factor. And I think that, having that drive in a way helps to kind of accept some of the pain that comes along with the journey. And with that, I think a little bit of acceptance or maybe a submission to the pain, you gain peace because you go inside. You go into the dark parts of your heart, your soul, your head, and anybody who's been there knows it can get really dark in there. But sometimes that's where you got to go in order to get through whatever it is you're trying to get through. And when it's, I think, something physical like that, then, you know, that's kind of where that peace comes in. You just accept it and you keep moving. Um, because I don't think I was definitely happy. I was happy when it was done, when I completed it. And I don't really even know if happy is the right word, but maybe a sense of accomplishment, a sense of pride. That, that thing you have yourself for doing what you said you were going to do, the undeniable proof that lets you know you are the man you say you are. Because, I don't know. I think happiness is kind of hard to define. I think it means different things to different people. Um, But then I think there's another type of happiness. You know, I think I've always had an okay time getting myself through physical things, putting up with the suck, putting up with the bullshit. You know, there's many jobs, and especially if you're in the military, it's like, hey, how much bullshit can you put up with, and how long can you put up with it? And if you can do it longer than anyone else, then you made it. I listen to a lot of military podcasts, and currently listening to Mr. Ballin with Sean Ryan show. And he described like Navy SEALs, like, hey, it's you go out there, anybody can try, but it's like you just got to go out there and be willing to outlast everyone else, not give up, keep moving forward. And I think you get to a certain level of comfort with discomfort. You have to. That's the only way to make it. And no, I was not a Navy SEAL. I was just a plain old admin clerk, YN3. So, you know, different types of stress, not physical. But, I think that's the other half of it is, when you want mental peace, or well, when you have mental friction, I think gaining peace is a little more difficult than physical. Because I think physical, you can work through pain. It's kind of mind over body. But when it's your mind that has the friction and the unpeace, the unwell, then I think it's a little more difficult to come by. And, if you have mental misery, I don't know that you can have mental peace. I already said, I have a hard time defining happy. I don't know that I really know what happy is or what the feeling of happy means, other than Pharrell's song off the Minions. Yeah, I don't know. It's you drink water. I don't know. I can't really remember the last time I was happy, like happy, happy. Um, I've had senses of accomplishment, feelings of satisfaction, um, feelings of gratitude, feelings of accomplishment, but I don't know that that is necessarily happy. Let me see. I think I was pretty happy when my daughter was born, but nervous. Um, hmm, maybe getting a job you want can be pretty elating. Maybe that was happy. Maybe graduating from grad school, um, while having a 1-year old, moving, changing careers, learning a whole bunch of shit. Um, but was that more accomplishment? Maybe. Actually, I do know the last time I was happy. January 12th, 2024, at the Kyle Smith Drifting Roots show. That was happy. And that was peaceful mentally, because I think at that point in time, I had been struggling mentally, having a hard time, having a hard time figuring out what am I to do? What direction am I to go? Am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? Um, do I continue the podcast? Do I stop the podcast? You know, but going there and being myself around people safe people who allowed me to be myself, the truest version of myself. Um, Feeling free, being present in the moment, not taking pictures, but getting out there and, dancing, jamming while the band's playing. Um, yeah, I felt pretty peaceful and happy, especially on the 2 hour ride home. It was nice. So now that I've reconnected with myself and I know what happiness is, I definitely think it's a hell of a lot easier to have some peace when you have happiness. And when you have misery, I don't know, I think it's more difficult when you have mental misery to be happy. This is Richard at the Men of the House podcast. Feeling totally drained? If you're searching for ways to manage stress and find a little more peace, the Podcast Connection Network is here for you. We've got amazing shows on mental health, mindfulness, and all kinds of ways to live a healthier, happier life. Check us out. The link is in the description below. What am I talking about? Well, on the way up to that show, I was confused, asking myself all those questions. And that doubt causes that mental misery. And you guys might be able to hear the rain in the background. Speaking of misery. But, and we'll speak of happiness on that because I'm going to Uber tomorrow in the rain. And even though it's kind of miserable, it's going to be peaceful because I'm going to be listening to podcasts, making people happy by getting them their shit when they don't want to get out in the rain. So, yeah. But anywho, on the other note is when you have that mental shit going on, I think it's very difficult to find peace. It's very disruptive to peace. I don't know that you can have it when you're struggling mentally, or I mean, it could be anything. My wife and I getting in my wife and I getting in an argument. Um, Going somewhere where there's bad vibes, low energy, low vibrations. It can put you in that mental funk. And I don't think there's any peace in that. Yeah, I don't. If you've listened to my other episodes, maybe the last one, with myself and Amber, my peace was disrupted by events, people, expectations, pressures, lack of connection. I think I went in peace, but didn't leave in peace. And so I think you can have peace while being physically miserable, but I don't think you can have peace while being mentally miserable. But I definitely think if you're happy, you'll have a sense of peace, or you should, because I don't think you would be happy if you didn't have peace. Because I think as a man, I would almost consider peace more important than happiness. Sometimes, there's things I can do for my wife or my daughter that may be unpleasant to me, maybe things I don't want to do. But, you know, I gain a sense of peace by them by serving them, I guess. I guess you could say. Or, you know, if you don't serve them correctly, then you're definitely going to have a lack of peace. Um, that old adage, happy wife, happy life. Um, yeah, I think of these things of like going like, especially when it comes to employment, because, if you've heard my story and the past several years were just shitty job hunting, jobs I didn't want, getting offers of places I didn't want to go out in the middle of nowhere. I want to manage a prison unit in the middle of nowhere. Um, but if not having that kind of job is a source of stress for my family and I could take that job and be miserable, but have a sense of peace because guess what? Now I no longer have to hear about you need a job. But then I'm sure that peace gets disrupted shortly after. Well, now you have this job and now you're never home. Now you get 2 a.m. phone calls. Or if I have to leave my wife and daughter here to keep her in the school that she's currently in, and I'm 5 hours away and can't visit, then I have to hear about that. Now, that's a peace disruptor. But, you know, I could, I'm trying to think if I could not have peace and be happy. I mean, I could be maybe happy that they're happy, but I don't really know that that's happy. Um, Maybe that's a sense of peace. Peace that they're happy, peace that you don't have to hear anything. I don't know. That's why I'm having this discussion or what I want it to be. I don't have it figured out. I don't have the answers. It's an exploration. It's a community thing, a connection thing. You, the listener, have to participate. You don't have to participate in my happiness or my peace or my whys or my questioning this. This is about you asking yourself the questions so you can determine your thoughts and views on it and try to have some peace, try to have some happiness, um, but also look for it or maybe have a different perspective when you're in that situation, especially if it's a physical one. I mean, we're all going to have to do some bullshit we don't want to do, whether it's moving a couch up to the third floor or, helping a friend move. Yeah, that can suck. But there's a sense of, you know, you're helping your friend. You feel good about that. And you get a sense of peace and joy with that. But I don't know, maybe next time you get in a nice little tiff with a significant other, think about your peace then. Think about your happiness. Ask yourself, are you miserable in that situation? Is that situation making you miserable? Um, and see if you feel peace or not. It's kind of a question. I like to get other people's views on it, but it's kind of really in the best effort to get in touch with yourself. And like I say, these podcasts are for everyone, but sometimes they're for me. I'm talking to me. So, there's that old saying, if it costs you your peace, then it's too expensive. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And once you identify it, you have to ask yourself, hey, is this costing me my peace? Is it too expensive? What am I getting out of it? Am I willing to pay it? And, you know, if it costs you your peace, then it's too expensive. But then you have to decide, I mean, I automatically think of relationships in that realm. If you're in a relationship long enough with somebody you care about, you're going to fight, you're going to argue, your peace is going to be disrupted more than once. However, how you decide to move forward is a whole different thing. I've been with the same person for 18 years. We've ups and downs, good and bad, all kinds of stuff. But we've continued to drive on, even though I'm sure sometimes it's cost us our peace individually, collectively. Um, because I know I'm not the easiest person. So yeah, but you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? Some people choose like they break up, they get divorced over that lack of peace. Some people continue on, push forward. Doesn't mean they understand it. It doesn't mean they've asked themselves the questions. It doesn't mean that they're doing the right thing. But also, like I think of myself, 18 years with the same person. There's been different iterations of me, some good, some bad. And, it's now that I'm here at this point in my life, this point in, with my wife and kids, I'm asking myself these questions, just over the past couple weeks. And I think asking the questions are the part that help you to understand, like, hey, um, what do I need to do? What's the answer? Well, I can tell you what's not the answer, for me at least. Um, I don't want to divorce. Um, I want to see my daughter every night. I want my daughter to have one dad and one mom if she can, with no secondaries, no steps, if possible. It's not all bad. Some people don't belong together, and that's okay. But, I'm talking about me, my current situation. I know what I want. And so when my peace is disrupted, I have to go, well, what do I do? Well, I ask myself some questions. Am I happy? Am I miserable? Um, what's the underlying cause of it? What are we going to do? And, for me, I think the answer is giving it some thought, sitting still, giving it some thought, but then learning and understanding where you need work. Um, maybe you need therapy. Maybe you need couples therapy. Maybe it's both of you working together. How can we improve this so we're, you know, arguing or disrupting peace less frequency? How about that? Less disruptions. You know, the idea is if you're learning to do something, learning to ride a bike, you're going to fall off and you get better. And, your first fall, you might scrape your knee and it might be hard to get back on. But then each time you fall, maybe you get back on a little quicker and eventually things line up a little better and there's less, you're able to correct quicker. And I think relationships are kind of the same way in that, you know, if you can learn what you're actually fighting about, then you can get back to having that peace a lot quicker, especially as a man, if that's what we seek. Because I hear that's what we seek. And I think I probably agreed to it on a podcast. I'm sure I did. Because I think I would prefer peace over happiness for sure. But I think you kind of get one with the other. But yeah. Anyways, I think I'm going to end it here before the rain nixes the electricity again. And I have to re-record the whole thing. But like I said, interactive episode. Give me your thoughts. You can share Spotify, YouTube, comments, Instagram, TikTok, all those places. But yeah, I think the more participation we have, um, be it for men or women, then the more we can learn, the better we can get. Because I mean, we all want peace, right? Who doesn't? So, on that note, I hope you guys have a great one, and I'll see you later.
Let go. Asteroid of fear.